All right, Trey. We've got a poll to talk about. I know everybody and their mother loves preseason polls, but hey, I'm actually a fan. It gives us something to talk about. And I don't think preseason polls matter that much for Texas because we know Texas is a big enough brand and we know what Texas has to do to get where they need to get. But I still think preseason polls matter to some teams out there. And I think it's worth talking about, right? It sets expectations for every team going into the upcoming college football season. So we've got the preseason coaches poll from USA Today. This is not the AP poll, of course. This is just the coaches poll. But you want to take a guess on who came in at number one on the first coaches poll of the season, Trey?
Even if they are replacing their starting quarterback, the Georgia Bulldogs do deserve the respect to be ranked number one preseason. I've cheated. I've already seen who the number one is. So, yeah, Georgia's at number one. No surprises there.
Yeah, even if you didn't cheat, you would have been able to guess that one pretty easily. They got 61 of the 66 first place votes. So not a unanimous selection for Georgia, but no surprise that the back-to-back defending national champions, despite having to replace their 42-year-old quarterback and so much else on their roster, they are the number one team in the land once again. We're not going to go 1 to 25, but we'll give you up until where Texas is on this ranking, and obviously we'll give our thoughts on where the Longhorns are ranked, and we'll debate whether or not it's too high, too low, or just right. So Georgia comes in at number one. Michigan, after winning the Big Ten and making it to the college football playoff, they're number two. Alabama, of course, the Longhorns' opponent in week 2 of the 2023 season, they're number 3. Ohio State, number 4. No surprise with the top 4. Feels like those are always your top 4 nowadays in college football. LSU number 5, USC with Lincoln Riley number 6, Penn State, Florida State, Clemson, and Tennessee rounding out the top 10. So no Texas yet. Number 11 is Washington, and then coming in at number 12, Trey, the Texas Longhorns, right ahead of Notre Dame, Utah, and Oregon. Your thoughts? Look, I think a lot of Texas fans are now trained to not give a rat's you-know-what about preseason polls, but what do you think? Texas at number 12, does that feel right to you?
I think it makes sense when you look at the teams around them. That Washington team that did beat them in the Alamo Bowl last year, being a spot ahead of them. Washington returns a lot from last season's team. So I have no issues with them falling just behind Washington. And you look at the teams just behind them, Notre Dame, Utah, Oregon, then TCU at 16. Like, I don't think TCU is a top 25 team right now, but they're going to get the respect of a team that went on the run that they did last year, making it all the way to the national championship game before getting blown out in a perfect storm by those Georgia Bulldogs. But I do worry, though, because I see the coaches poll getting a lot of Big 12 teams wrong in my mind. So maybe they're getting Texas wrong too. But the fact that Texas is the first Big 12 team to show up in this poll, I think is in line with how everybody else feels about the Longhorns versus the rest of the conference this year. Some of those other Big 12 teams, BK, I mentioned TCU at 16, Kansas State at 17. I would probably have Kansas State as the second best team in the Big 12 right now. And Oklahoma at 19. I'm probably don't have them in the top 25. They're going to have to prove it just a little bit. And Texas Tech coming in at 24. I would maybe have Tech somewhere around 20, but I think that's a pretty fair ranking for them too. And by the way, Tech fans, congratulations for whatever it's worth with a preseason coaches poll that has likely been filled out by the communications director for the football program. You do find yourself one spot in front of those Texas A&M Fighting Aggies.
They will always get a kick out of that. It doesn't matter what conference that the two teams are in. Texas Tech always wants to be ranked ahead of Texas A&M. There's some hatred that still goes on between those two schools.
Oh,
No
yeah.
doubt about that. Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of noteworthy things there, but the most noteworthy point was the fact that Texas is the highest ranked team in the Big 12. I think the fact that there are no Big 12 teams ranked in the top 11 kind of tells you where this conference is right now. There are plenty of question marks around the league going into 2023. And look, I think if Texas had more success over the last 10 or 12 years with the talent and experience that this team has, they'd probably be ranked inside the top 10. Like, I do think the Longhorns have a top 10 most talented roster in all of college football, but this is a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me kind of thing. And hell, we're at 13 years of being fooled by Texas being ranked too high in preseason polls. So that's where it is right now. Like, you could definitely make a case that Texas should be higher, but also if you wanted to make a case that the Longhorns should be lower because of past failures, then I don't know if I would argue too much against you. But it does feel like Texas is the clear favorite in the Big 12 this year. Obviously, the Big 12 preseason poll indicated that same exact thing. And yeah, no surprise that the Longhorns are the highest ranked team in this conference. And I'm with you with some of the other things that you said. TCU's getting that bump because they made it all the way to the national title game last year. They lost a ton. They won a ton of one-score games. They had a lot of luck go their way, which, hey, I would take their season in a heartbeat, okay? Like, I'm
Yeah.
jealous. If it sounds like I am jealous about TCU and what they did in 2022, it's because I am. I would take luck. I would take all those one-score games. Hell, Texas had some fortune a few years ago, and all they did was win a Sugar Bowl. They didn't even win the conference. They won a Sugar Bowl. They didn't come close to the college football playoff. So if you can turn a fortunate season into a trip to the CFP and into a trip to the national title game, then, hey, more power to you. But I do expect TCU to take a big step back. I don't think they're a top 25 team this year. And you said it, man. Oklahoma's obviously very interesting. So it's weird. This conference is weird this year. And it's kind of been the case at times over the last 4 or 5 years. But this year, especially, it really feels like we have no idea what to expect. And you can almost make a case that if you were filling out your own preseason poll and ranking the Big 12 1 to 14, because that's where we're at right now, you could come up with all sorts of different combinations, and you can make tons of different arguments to place certain teams in certain spots.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, as I said previously, like nobody's going to get outraged with Texas at 12. If you feel like they should be a top 10 team, you're entitled to your opinion. The good news for you is that 2 weeks into the season, you're going to have a chance to prove yourself as a top 10 team. So if you take care of business in Tuscaloosa on September 9th, then congratulations. You'll probably find yourself in the top 8 or top 6 once that game is over with and those new polls do come out. But I hope the Texas players look at these rankings and perhaps it grows the chip on their shoulder, but it also shows them that they do have an opportunity to accomplish a lot this year. Starting at 12, it's just a starting point. But it's better than starting down at 24 where Texas Tech is or 25 where A&M is. But even those schools, if they take care of their business, they'll work their way up. So the opportunity is there. People have a belief that you're going to be good once again. So now it's time for you to go out and prove it.
Yep, agreed 100%. And look, if Texas wins that game in Tuscaloosa, forget top 10. They're going to be ranked in the top 5.
Maybe.
Assuming the Longhorns take care of business against Rice, do I even have to say that? And assuming Alabama doesn't lose to Middle Tennessee State in their season opener, do I even have to say that? Now, Texas wins that game. They're going to be a top 5 team in college football. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, they've got everything in front of them this year. They were obviously close against the Crimson Tide last year. I don't think this is an LSU 2019 to 2020 situation by any stretch of the imagination. But COVID sucked for a billion different reasons. I was so pissed that Texas didn't get its shot at redemption against LSU. Number one, because I wanted to go. I've never been to Death Valley, and I really wanted the opportunity to experience game day there because everyone says it's one of, if not the best game day experiences in all of college football. But number two, like, I knew LSU was going to be bad that year. I didn't think they were going to be that bad. They were awful, and Ed O obviously lost his job right after that. But I figured Texas would be around as good as they were the year before. And I knew LSU was going to take a pretty decent sized step back because they lost Joe Burrow and like 72 players to the NFL. I really wanted that chance to beat them in their house because that would have been just a nice signature win for the program. Alabama's not going to be bad. They're not going to have a losing record or anything like LSU did in 2020. But like I feel better about Texas's chances this year going into Bryant-Denny than I did last year, even though the game was in Austin.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Are you going to Tuscaloosa, by the way?
I think so, man. The wheels are in motion. I
I'm
haven't
trying to
booked
make
any
some things
flights.
happen, but
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
I,
see.
I want to go. I want to go really badly, but we'll have opportunities in the future if we don't get there this year. But like you said, it feels like the Longhorns have a better chance to win that game this year than the game last season in Austin, and we know how close that game was.
Dude, get your ass to Tuscaloosa. We'll do a pre and post game at the Airbnb that I'm staying at, if they even have internet in that city or in that state.
Well, that's the added impetus now is like you and I go up there on like a Friday or something and actually do our show from some sports bar there and hope we don't get punched out by the insane hillbilly Alabama fans that love just trading blows if you don't root for their team.
Oh, man. I want to win that game for so many different reasons. Of course, everyone hearing the sound of my voice right now does as well. But just to see Alabama fans' reaction in person, it's not just like losing to Texas. It has nothing to do with Texas at all. Just whenever they lose a game under Nick Saban, oh my God, they're ready to fire Nick Saban. It's like,
Yeah.
he's done. We got to make a change. He's lost his fastball. This dynasty is over. We've got no shot. We suck. Like, it's amazing. You think Texas fans overreact to losses? Hell no. We're used to this shit by now. We've got plenty of years of dealing with heartbreak and tragedy as college football fans. It is amazing, and I'd kill to have this problem, but it is amazing to watch Alabama fans react after losing a single regular season football game. I want to get to witness that in person in their house, Trey.
Can you imagine 10 or 11 regular season wins feeling like a letdown of a year? I mean, talk about feelings being relative. We get
Yeah.
to 9 wins, we feel like we just won a freaking college football playoff championship in Austin right now.
Yep.
Like, we're
Yep.
begging for 9 or 10 wins this year.
I would, I think, murder somebody for a 10-win season this year. Like, that is how desperate I am right now as a Texas football fan. And yeah, 10-win seasons, like just 10-win seasons in Tuscaloosa are disastrous. And oh, by the way, it doesn't help them that, their old defensive coordinator is now winning national championships at a rival school across the conference. So that's not helping as well. But yeah, I mean, the chance is there for Texas, man. And, that's an opportunity to make a statement, obviously, early on. To hell with just the polls, but obviously expectations change a lot if you're able to go in there and find a win in week 2 in Tuscaloosa. It'd be a lot of fun.
Well, you people are already active on the comment line this morning on YouTube. Thank you very much for that. Love what Jose had to say. Texas at 12 is warranted. I don't think they are a top 10 team, ... yet. Hook 'em with the hook 'em emoji and the smiling emoji with sunglasses. CB follows that up. Hope everything's good in Washington this morning, CB. Who is the Bama starter September 9th? Jake followed that up by saying, I think it's Buckner. I would probably lean Buckner right now, too, just because he went with his offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, from Notre Dame to Alabama. That would give him a leg up on the playbook. But we'll see. Nick Saban's going to have to reveal that at some point. You imagine that's probably going to be game week before game 1 versus whoever their scrub opponent was that you mentioned a few minutes ago, BK. But Buckner does seem to have the inside track on that job.
No love to the not blue waffles. Oh boy, Blue Raiders of Middle Tennessee State.
There we go, Middle Tennessee State. No, we used to play with them in the college football video game back in the early 2000s because they were one of the worst teams in the game. So you build the program up. Buffalo was another one of those programs that we would do that with, and Wyoming. Those are the 3 programs that we used to always jump on because they were so bad to try and get them to national championship contenders.
You were ready to make the move to the SEC if you're scheduling those kind of cupcake teams on your schedule back in the video game days. That's well done on your part. Yeah, for what it's worth, I'm looking at Phil Steele right now. He's got Tyler Buckner listed as the projected starter for Alabama. Obviously, the magazine doesn't know everything, but reason to believe because of what you just said, the fact that he knows the offense, that he could be the guy. But yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, nobody they have in their quarterback room is Bryce Young. No one they have is even close to Bryce Young. We saw Jalen Milroe in that Bama A&M game last year, and the guy's an electric athlete. One-time Texas commit from the state of Texas. Phenomenal athlete, but not a great, I don't even know if he's a good thrower of the football. So I don't know if that's going to be the plan for them. Ty Simpson, the stud redshirt freshman, is on campus. They don't have things figured out. And the fact that, yes, so late in the offseason, Bama had to go to the portal to bring in a guy who wasn't good at Notre Dame. It's not like Buckner was awesome at Notre Dame. No, they went out and got the Sharp Man, Sam Hartman. I think the Sharp Man is a great nickname for him. I don't know if that one's going to catch on to any of the broadcasts this year. I hope it does.
Is that legal?
I don't know. Can you say shark? We can on this show because, it's Texas Sports Unfiltered, but I've said it on the radio in the past and not gotten reprimanded. So I don't know. After what the Baltimore Orioles guy got suspended for yesterday, then I don't know what the hell we can and can't say anymore.
What the hell was that? There has to have been something more going on there because otherwise that is a ridiculous overreaction by the Orioles.
Yeah, I agree. We'll have to maybe get into that tomorrow or at some point and actually get the audio because that was a freaking joke. I agree 100%. But yeah, I mean Notre Dame clearly didn't like Buckner, and Alabama late in the offseason went to get that guy. So I think that tells you that they didn't feel good about the guys that they already had on campus. Once again, it's still Alabama. I get it. They usually find a way, and Bill O'Brien not being there probably makes their offense better in 2023. But still, major questions at the most important position in the sport. And Texas has the quarterback advantage. They didn't have it last year. We knew how good Bryce Young was last year. He was coming off a Heisman Trophy win, and it was obviously Quinn Ewers' second career start. Now, Ewers held his own. He did a great job before he got hurt. And we ended up having conversations again about what would have happened if a Texas quarterback didn't get hurt against Alabama. But we know for sure Texas has the quarterback advantage this year. They did not have that last year. That's something that should give you some confidence that, hey, maybe the Horns have a chance.
And let's also remember that Alabama lost its most important player on the defensive side of the ball, too, with Will Anderson now being a member of the Houston Texans, a guy that I was arguing in the offseason heading into that NFL draft is the most can't miss guy in the NFL draft. He was a freak of nature, had been just wrecking havoc on opposing offenses for 3 years at Alabama. And so for him to no longer be there, there's obviously a big void there too, but he was pretty quiet against Texas last year. And a lot of that had to do with Kelvin Banks, the true freshman, holding his own against one of the top defensive players in college football.
Yeah, that's when we knew. I mean, everyone was excited about Kelvin Banks when he flipped the commitment and ended up on the 40 acres. But yeah, when he was able to hold his own against a guy who ultimately became the third overall pick and the first defensive player off the board in this year's NFL draft, yeah, that told you a few things. I mean, it felt like Will Anderson had like 7 offsides in that game. Like he was trying to cheat. That was the only way he could consistently beat true freshman Kelvin Banks. So, yeah, look, they still have Dallas Turner, who might be the first defensive player off the board in next year's draft. That guy's a stud, and it's still Bama. They've got studs all over the field. But, yeah, you're right. Kelvin Banks, the Texas offensive line, that's where a lot of people started taking notice about that group. And a lot of people started feeling like, okay, maybe the Longhorns have something pretty good up front. And sure enough, they did. And that's one of the main reasons for optimism with this Texas team in 2023 is that all 5 of those guys are back. And you also have depth up front, too.
BK, we talk about University of Texas stress disorder, aka UTSD, from time to time. Troy just gave me UTSD with this thought on the comments line. Might throw a couple of QBs at Texas. We all know what running QBs do to Texas. Hate to mention Taysom Hill. Well, Troy, you did just mention Taysom Hill, and now I'm going to go cry for a few minutes.
I'm not even going to say his name, all right? That dude is Voldemort to me. I will say Voldemort's name. I'll say Candyman a bunch of times. I ain't saying that dude's name, dude. God, I hate that guy. And I'm worried that when Texas and BYU get together this year, somehow, some way, that guy who played college football for, I think, 14 years is going to somehow get another game worth of eligibility so he could go up against Texas.
Is that game in Austin?
Yes.
So he's going to ride his bike from New Orleans all the way over to Austin to take part in that game?
It's a shorter trip to Austin than it is to Provo, so he's got a chance to make it there coming from NOLA. Oh, my God. So there you go. Texas ranked number 12 in the preseason coaches poll. Too high, too low, just right. We'd love to hear from y'all. And thank you very much for all the support, and thank you all for jumping into the comment section already. It's about you guys, man. We want to make this as fun and entertaining as possible for y'all, and we want to talk about what you guys want to hear. So keep those comments coming. Keep the feedback coming. We always do appreciate it. All right, before we shift gears, Trey, and talk about some of Bucky's epic tweets from the last 72 hours and change, let's give some love to